What's up everyone? In this video we're doing a deep dive for season 1 episode 5 of House of the Dragon titled We Light the Way. We did breakdowns for episodes 1 through 4 already. We got links in the description, so check those out if you haven't already. No time to waste, let's get going. We start the episode off in the Vale where we see Lady Rhea getting ready to go on a hunt. Rhea is actually Daemon's wife through arranged marriage. She crosses paths with her cousin while on the way, and he asks her if she's hunting for rabbit. She says that she's hunting for deer actually, which shows that maybe the rabbit question was a bit sexist by her cousin. He offers to help and she coldly rejects him and rides off.
If you've seen Thrones as well, the most memorable moment at this location was definitely when Tyrion was weaseling his way out of death by a 1,000-foot drop. I miss that dude. The scenic shots reminded me a little of the Scottish countryside in Braveheart. These are more simple folk. Also, Lady Rhea, Daemon must just have a certain type.
Yeah man, Lady Rhea definitely passes the smash or pass test.
I'd do it.
She continues riding and then cross paths with Daemon, who's standing solo and is cloaked up looking sketchy as hell. These two hate each other and haven't had sex yet. Lady Rhea calls Daemon out for all the ugly insults he's thrown at her over the years. Daemon says nothing and calmly approaches the horse. Rhea then shits on Daemon for being passed over as heir and openly wonders, what will he do now? Will he kill Rhaenyra? She suddenly realizes that Daemon is there to actually kill her. She reaches for her bow, but the horse gets spooked and throws her off, breaking her spine and paralyzing her. I don't know if Daemon did something to cause the horse to get so scared, but either way, Daemon thinks about stepping on her arm, but then walks away towards a pile of rocks. Rhea sends a vicious insult towards him.
I knew you couldn't finish.
And Daemon then grabs a giant stone and walks back over to crush her. Once again, I'm pretty sure Daemon was gonna kill her anyways, so Lady Rhea made sure that she got one last jab in. By crushing her with the stone, her death now looks like a horse riding accident.
You can tell the Targaryen Patrick Bateman is at work the second he moves towards the horse. The transition to the fish cut left very little to the imagination.
That boy ain't right.
So with Lady Rhea presumably out of the way, let's go back to King's Landing where we actually see Otto walking away. The last episode ended with him getting fired for being a little snitch bitch. As he's leaving the castle and returning to Old Town, where the Hightowers live, Alicent comes out to say goodbye. He scolds her for taking Rhaenyra's side and playing a role in his firing. She swears that Rhaenyra is telling the truth. Otto's spy must have given him bad info. Otto says it doesn't matter. Viserys won't live for much longer, and when Rhaenyra ascends the throne, her rule will be challenged by the mere existence of Aegon. Rhaenyra will have no choice but to kill Aegon in order to solidify her role. Alicent either gets Aegon on the throne or begs Rhaenyra for mercy. There's a lot of logic to what Otto is saying, but it's not a guarantee that this is how it would actually play out. Either way, his words hit Alicent deeply.
This is the gamble he took by trying to carry his own dream out through Alicent, and in turn, little Aegon. Now Alicent will have more pressure on her to mend this. I know they cued the sad music, but I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy for this guy, and I won't count him out because you can bet this dude's gonna be lurking like Gollum just based on the anger and drive he's shown to this point to get his family in that sweet, sweet line of succession.
And speaking of the crown, Viserys is now traveling to Driftmark to propose the Rhaenyra-Laenor marriage to Corlys. He gets seasick very easily and has a rough time on the boat, plus he's already a dying man anyways. They arrive at Driftmark to see Laenor sparring with this other dude. Corlys isn't there to greet Viserys, which is extremely rude. Obviously, Corlys still feels disrespected from all the shit Viserys has done, so this is his own way of throwing shade. Laena, his daughter, comes out to greet them and lets them know that Corlys has just returned from traveling, so he's tired and he's waiting for them inside. Viserys knows that Corlys is being an asshole, but he doesn't care and wants to just get on with it. It's been around 4 years now, so Laena is now a teenager. So now Viserys actually enters the Driftmark castle in order to receive a greeting from Corlys, and we see how pissed off Lionel Strong is. As mentioned earlier, very disrespectful move by Corlys, but Viserys is only about the results. Rhaenys also greets her cousin Viserys. Corlys congratulates Lionel on being the new hand and expresses some fake sadness over Otto's firing. They also relay news to Viserys that Lady Rhea Royce was found dead from a hunting accident. Both her neck and skull were crushed. Jesus Christ, Daemon. Lady Rhea's skills as a hunter and rider were well known throughout the realm. She was gonna inherit Runestone, and since she and Daemon have no heirs, the question of who gets Runestone is now up in the air, most likely favoring Daemon. Viserys obviously has a good idea of what actually caused Rhea's death, but he moves on to the main thing he's trying to accomplish. He proposes a marriage between Rhaenyra and Laenor. Instead of immediately accepting, Corlys asks about the details of the succession, which is another disrespectful move. Viserys says that upon his death, Rhaenyra will inherit the throne, and her firstborn, regardless of gender, will inherit the throne for her. Corlys wonders if Rhaenyra's children will then take Laenor's name, which is Westerosi tradition. We know what he's getting at. Corlys wants the Valyrian name to eventually occupy the throne.
The disrespect being continued is not a total shock, especially due to some of those slights from Viserys towards Corlys earlier in the season. Viserys' poor health creates a chain reaction because there are certainly rumors circulating about Rhaenyra and Daemon due to the fact that Otto got canned. Like, people are going to talk about why he got canned. His ailing health creates a shot clock to figure out all this succession BS, so overall the crown stock is looking real low. Corlys is not stupid. Viserys makes a great call playing to Rhaenys. It adds up that she would sympathize based on what happened to her.
Viserys counters with his final offer. When they are born, the children will take the Valyrian name, but once the child ascends the throne, the name will switch back to Targaryen. Corlys accepts this offer, calling it an equitable compromise.
Crafty thinking by Viserys on the last name split. Throughout the last couple episodes, he's shown a lot more ability to maneuver through things than he did in the first couple.
Meanwhile, Rhaenyra and Laenor are walking on the beach and talking about their future marriage. Rhaenyra knows that Laenor is gay, and she uses an analogy involving roast duck and goose to explain it. In her analogy, roast duck equals dick and goose equals vagina. Sex ed 101, baby. She tells Laenor she prefers roast duck as goose is far too greasy for her, and Laenor says he's tried to like goose but is still a roast duck man. Rhaenyra tells Laenor, let's just perform our duties to the realm. Once we're done, do whatever we please. So basically they'll try to produce heirs and then fuck whoever they want afterwards. As Corlys just said, an equitable compromise.
Rhaenyra is also smooth in her own negotiations, similar to her father. This reflects her maturation as a character. She knows what she wants and is planning to put things into place so that she isn't just another king's caretaker like Alicent. She wants her own life.
Back at the castle, Rhaenys and Corlys are discussing the aftermath of the proposal. Corlys is pleased, but Rhaenys is worried. They both know that Laenor is gay, but Corlys thinks that he can outgrow it. Rhaenys says that this marriage immediately puts Laenor in danger. The existence of young Aegon means that Rhaenyra's succession will be challenged, and knives will come out for her side of the family. Corlys isn't worried since they have a massive navy and tons of dragons. This is about righting previous wrongs. In Corlys' mind, Rhaenys should have been the queen to start with. Rhaenys is over all of it. She doesn't care about being queen and just wants her family to be safe.
Two very different halves of this power couple. Corlys is incredibly ambitious, similar to Otto, but instead of through manipulation, he wants it through sheer will. Hinting that Laenor would be able to just enjoy sleeping with a woman because that's the way things are is a wild claim, but you can tell he legitimately believes it. Rhaenys is more pragmatic. The power lust of Corlys isn't present within her. Ironic because she's a Targaryen and that's what these people do.
Meanwhile, Laenor is now hanging with his lover. I think this dude's name is Joffrey Lonmouth. Laenor is saddened about the marriage, but Joffrey doesn't care. He says he'll be Laenor's official sworn protector, and then they start making out. Laenor knows that Rhaenyra has a secret lover of her own as well. Speaking of Rhaenyra, she's now sailing back to King's Landing and digesting how her future will change. Criston Cole comes up to her and throws out a ridiculous proposal. He says they should just run away and live freely in Essos. They could marry for love and travel the world and be free from the responsibilities of the crown. She rejects him completely. She has a duty to the realm and she is destined to marry a nobleman from a fine house. She's not choosing infamy in exchange for a mere bushel of oranges. Jesus Christ, she kind of destroys Cole right there. She does tell Cole, look man, we can keep fucking on the side. Laenor is cool with it. This crushes Cole's ego and he self-destructs.
Completely. And if you slow the tape and zoom in, you can actually pinpoint the moment his heart shatters in real time. Shit. The irony in this situation too is that women have been doing the same thing that Cole is like disgusted of doing in King's Landing for a long time, so that was kind of funny. You get an immediate contrast here in Rhaenyra. Cole is seeking honor and wants not only to be happy but to be in control of his own fate. Rhaenyra wants a side piece who she might grow to care for someday. You wonder if Daemon is primarily responsible for the philosophy she's adopted. Can't blame him for not being content with that, but he's a little too innocent for his own good.
Yeah, Criston Cole took an oath of chastity as a member of the Kingsguard, and he's broken it for Rhaenyra. He feels as though his honor is gone. Marriage with Rhaenyra might have restored his honor, but he cannot live with himself as Rhaenyra's whore. Damn man, gotta feel bad for Criston Cole, but come on, what did he expect? Pussy power had him thinking Rhaenyra was really gonna give up the fucking crown to travel the world. Loser mentality from Cole, I gotta be frank. Alright, before we cover the wedding, which is obviously the craziest thing that happens in this episode, let's just touch on what Alicent has been doing and how Larys Strong starts weaving his way into her circle. Now that Otto is gone, Alicent is essentially alone in the castle. She needs an ally, and this gives that fucker Larys Strong a chance to weasel his way in. It's some textbook manipulation. He approaches her while she's in the garden and uses the Malvales plant as symbolism for something that thrives in a hostile and foreign environment. After all, Alicent is an outsider in this castle ruled by the Targaryens.
Malvales. Rare bloom.
What a fucking villainous statement. He then openly wonders about Rhaenyra's health, which puzzles Alicent. After all, Rhaenyra seems perfectly healthy. But Larys mentions offhand that the Grandmaster Melos brought some tea to Rhaenyra's chamber, all of this at Viserys' command. Alicent obviously knows what all this means. She understands that the tea is some form of plan B, and Rhaenyra was lying to her. Essentially, her father was ousted, even though his spy info was indeed accurate. Larys plants this nice seed of dissent in Alicent's head, all while limping around on his one good foot.
Just not a good guy. I might have to retire the Otto Gollum comparison because this guy is much more Gollum-like. Creeps around and talks in such an eerie manner. You have to wonder how Larys got the info about the tea. Either the Grand Maester snitched because he isn't sold on Rhaenyra, Larys had a spy who observed the delivery, or Viserys never ordered the tea and it was Larys' order all along under the guise of being from Viserys. Saw a theory that implied Larys can shapeshift and saw the tea delivered as one of the rats from last episode, but I might have gotten a little too far down the rabbit hole. Sometimes too much Reddit can be a man's worst enemy.
Oh, one more thing to mention before the wedding. Alicent is now almost on the fuck Rhaenyra bandwagon after hearing the news from Larys. And, Criston Cole is obviously pissy about Rhaenyra for rejecting him for marriage. So Alicent summons Cole to question him about the whole Daemon Rhaenyra incident. After all, he's her sworn protector, so he knows about her movements better than anyone else. Criston Cole snitches immediately, but not on Daemon. He's not even really aware of that whole thing. He's talking about him and Rhaenyra having sex on that same night. He admits to it but says that Rhaenyra instigated it, which is all true. He then takes blame and requests death instead of being tortured. This entire revelation shocks Alicent to the core. So the information from Larys already had Alicent suspicious of Rhaenyra, but now it's clear that she can no longer trust her. Alicent is unconcerned with punishing Cole, and she thanks him for his honesty and dismisses him. I guess this throws the scent off of Daemon for the time being. Regardless of whether it was Cole or Daemon, Rhaenyra ultimately broke the so-called rules of that time.
This scene is, at risk of sounding like a total asshole, pretty Shakespearean. Alicent gets wordy and Cole is just way too honest. It also reveals a lot to Alicent. She really cannot trust Rhaenyra the way that she once could.
Okay, now let's get to Rhaenyra and Laenor's wedding, which is the biggest event in this episode. So we have this massive royal wedding, and Jason Lannister pays his respects to Viserys and Rhaenyra. He wonders where Queen Alicent is, and Viserys says she's getting ready. Jason then makes a roast-style sexist joke.
I understand the Queen is still readying herself for the celebrations.
This is why men wage war. Because a woman would never be ready for the battle in time.
They should have had this man on the Tom Brady roast. Lord Gerald then pulls up. Remember, he was the cousin of the deceased Lady Rhea from earlier in the episode. He knows who killed his cousin, so it's gotta hurt him to be present at this wedding. Corlys pulls up with a massive procession. Laenor and Rhaenyra share a moment and a kiss. Out of nowhere, Daemon pulls up and the crowd goes quiet. In the middle of Viserys' speech, Queen Alicent Hightower then pulls up and interrupts the whole ordeal. She's been dressed in the Targaryen red, but now she's decked out in the green colors of House Hightower. Furthermore, the green is a color House Hightower uses when they are at war. Major moment of public defiance and disrespect. Viserys lets it slide and resumes his speech. Laenor and Rhaenyra then have a public dance. Joffrey is watching with intense jealousy, and Criston Cole is watching with both a mixture of jealousy and hatred.
Alicent's entrance highlights an obvious moment of tension between Viserys and herself. The title of the episode itself, We Light the Way, is the motto of House Hightower, which connects in directly to the idea of the beacons being lit. The Valyrian entrance is pretty badass. They've got an aura of complete power about them. Jason with a classic eye roll from the guy that couldn't get the job done, Larys popping up like a jump scare. Daemon unannounced pulling up with a smirk as always. You can feel the energy in the worst possible way. We can tell quite a bit from this coldly delivered line.
Congratulations, stepdaughter.
These two are no longer pals and the faint battle lines are being drawn.
Yeah, the tension is palpable for sure once Alicent pulls up. The festivities are supposed to last for 7 days, which makes a fucking Indian wedding seem tame in comparison. Harold Hightower then pulls up and tells Alicent that all of Old Town stands with her. The Hightowers are ready for war if need be.
The power struggle below the surface is kind of fascinating. The Targaryens are an old dynasty who boast pure dragon power and other strategic advantages. There's a reason people are openly supporting Alicent though. If Aegon becomes king someday, their banners will be rewarded handsomely. This also means people aren't entirely buying the marriage to secure the line of succession through Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra.
Gerald goes up to Daemon and confronts him on Lady Rhea's death. Daemon doesn't respect him at all and is completely unfazed by these accusations. He then says since he and Lady Rhea had no heirs, Rhea's inheritance passes on to him. This means Runestone, where Gerald is from, technically belongs to Daemon now. He tells Gerald that he'll fly over to the Vale and secure Runestone for himself. Gerald can't do shit and tucks his tail between his legs and walks away. Poor Gerald, man, nothing you can do. Daemon then goes and drops a wild opening line to Laena.
Has anybody ever told you you're nearly as pretty as your brother?
Well, you flatter me, my prince.
Strong can see firsthand how devious this guy is. He just keeps doing terrible shit.
Who are you?
Giving all of us Daemons a worse name as the season progresses. The advancement on Laena right after is especially cold-blooded and suspect.
Yeah, and while this is going on, Laenor and Joffrey gossip about who Rhaenyra was secretly fucking this entire time, and they can easily tell that it's Criston Cole. Look how pouty and whiny he is. This is a happy wedding for some, but completely miserable for others. Joffrey goes up to Cole to basically taunt him about Rhaenyra getting married to Laenor. Joffrey then comes clean to Cole and says, I'm fucking Laenor, you were smashing Rhaenyra, we gotta protect them both, and these secrets as well, or else it's gonna get bad for everyone. I think this move was far too hasty on Joffrey's part.
It was pretty ballsy. By the time that Joffrey talks to Criston, you can cut that tension with a knife, the same way Viserys is cutting into that meat so ravenously. It's kind of nasty.
Yeah, and Daemon then breaks up a little flirting between Sir Harwin and Rhaenyra to speak to her in Valyrian. He doesn't understand why Rhaenyra is down for this engagement and this marriage in general. Clearly it's not what she wants. Rhaenyra challenges Daemon on the spot. If you want me so bad, cut through the Kingsguard, take me to Dragonstone and make me your wife. Viserys is watching this entire convo go down and seeing them get very close to each other as if they're about to kiss. Viserys is in complete panic watching this happen, but then suddenly we hear screams ring out. A fight has broken out between Criston Cole and Joffrey. Absolute chaos in the Great Hall. Cole is winning the fight and Laenor tries to jump in and help Joffrey, but he gets punched in the face and thrown off. There's too many people involved in this scrum and Laenor isn't able to get back inside. Lionel tells his mega strong son Harwin to go in and get Rhaenyra away from the fray, and we see Harwin punch the shit out of a bunch of people and carry Rhaenyra away. Joffrey is on the ground getting beat up and he tries drawing a dagger on Cole, but Cole breaks his arm and proceeds to beat his face in. The celebrations end in horror as Joffrey's bloody dead body is on the ground, his face is mangled on one side and in a bloody pulp. Laenor runs over and screams and cries out as he realizes that his lover is now gone.
At the beginning of this whole sequence, we can take a closer look at Viserys' facial expressions. He's expressing so much shock and fear because earlier in the episode, he's even reflecting on the fact of if he'll be remembered as a good king or not. So his legacy is solidly on the line with this line of succession here. This could totally blow up in his face, and it might, because Rhaenyra is playing a dangerous game right up until the buzzer. Cole comes out looking like a psycho. Is it Rhaenyra's fault and a result of her selfish choices? Yeah. But I don't know if she can take the lion's share of that blame. Cole was very far out of line with his reaction.
We then cut to the actual marriage ceremony between Laenor and Rhaenyra. It takes place later on that night in the same Great Hall. It should have been in front of a packed crowd, but after the disaster that just occurred, only close family are present. The hall is still a mess and Joffrey's blood hasn't even been cleaned up yet. Laenor and Rhaenyra sadly exchange vows as Viserys faints. Meanwhile, Criston Cole tries to kill himself, but is stopped by Alicent. I guess she's taking him under her protection now. Wild stuff. That man Cole should be dead as fuck after what he just did.
Totally. Cole not facing execution after this was one of the most unrealistic parts of the show so far, but we do have dragons, so the line is pretty subjective for most. Symbolism. The return of the rat, just as Viserys' poor health comes to a head.
Alright, that does it for our episode 5 breakdown. We'll be back with a breakdown for episode 6. Thanks for watching. Catch y'all later.